Everybody, Jim and Terry here to talk about Deadpool, Star Wars, Batman, Guardians, everything. We had a lot to talk about this week, actually, so let's dive right in. Star Wars Episode 8 officially commenced filming this week. They are filming in Ireland. What's interesting is the video that they released from the set shows them picking right up at the very end of Force Awakens where Rey is offering the lightsaber to Luke Skywalker. We officially have an image now of Mark Hamill out there.
We do. Thank you. Thank you so much, Star Wars, for after the full promotion cycle went through on Force Awakens. Hopefully by now people have seen it. Hopefully it's not a spoiler to say the 2 seconds of footage in that Episode 8 teaser is the end of that movie. And for the first time, we have an official production something of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, we couldn't use actually any of those like pirated images of people taking on their phones. So what's interesting though is that this is breaking with tradition. If seemingly it's picking right up where the last one left off.
Yeah, what we can take away, again, like this video, if you haven't seen it yet, it's just a quick snippet of close-up of Luke Skywalker's face, and then it switches over to Daisy Ridley as Rey holding the lightsaber out, and we hear someone go, and that's wrap, and Rian Johnson is like, and that's who's the director of Episode 8, it's like, that's the start of Episode 8. So what we can take away from that, if that really is what they're filming, then it does seem like this is the first Star Wars movie to pick up exactly where the other one left off.
Yeah, everything has always had a jump in time. Goldman was explaining to me that I always thought Jedi was only a few months after Empire.
No, it's like 6 months to a year.
Yeah,
right?
and it was much, much farther along. So poor Han Solo hanging up there on that wall.
That's just why he was
Velvet Elvis in Jabba's palace.
Such a hot mess when he did fall down.
I guess so, yeah.
But beyond just that teaser that we saw, we actually got like the official casting information.
Yeah.
We know for sure that Benicio del Toro is going to be in it, but we also found out Laura Dern has been cast, and I don't even remember her name because she's such a newcomer.
Kelly Marie Tran. And she's a newcomer. She's done a couple of TV things, but good for you, kid. Coming out
just
of
like
nowhere
Daisy Ridley really did nothing before Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this character. Do you have any speculation on what she could
Kelly
be?
Marie Tran's character? Maybe she's some sort of youngling of some kind. I mean, she seems like she's in her teens or 20s. I didn't quite get her age. But she could be, I would imagine she is going to be some sort of, I think she's going to be a good guy. You know?
See, yeah, I have two thoughts of it. Like, the one is maybe she's with Luke. Maybe he isn't completely in solitary confinement. Maybe he has someone who he's been training. Or on the other side of it, we know, or we think that we know, that Kylo Ren is going back to complete his training.
Right, Snoke said.
Yeah,
hey,
is what Snoke said. So maybe she is one of the other Knights of Ren, or whatever you call those trainees there.
A Padawan.
Yeah, a Padawan. We'll patent that right now. But the Laura Dern casting is also really interesting. And we sort of joked, like, I adore Laura Dern, and she, like, I've had a crush on her since, you know, like, Jurassic Park and October Sky and everything else that came with it. She made me cry a lot during Wild. But it's sort of a joke that she's been playing everyone's mom, like, for the indefinite number of years.
She's Snoke's mom, maybe?
No, but so we're like, oh God, is this the obvious, like, is she Rey's mom? Because she always plays a mom, and we know the parentage is going to be important. But you had another cool theory.
Oh, I think she might be, maybe she's a mocap character, kind of like, you know, you got Lupita Nyong'o and everyone like, oh, you got one of the most beautiful women in the world, clearly we're going to see her face. No, you're going to play an orange frog, you know, with goggles. So maybe Laura Dern is that, or maybe she's like, she could be both. She could be a mocap character who's sort of a resistance figure. It'd be interesting to see her play a villain. I think Benicio, to go to your point about maybe Kelly's character being a Padawan. Maybe he is because we know he's going to be a villain, so maybe he's the guy who's brought in to finish the training of Kylo Ren, sort of
really give sort of a face.
The evil Yoda, basically. I mean, think about it. If you think about it. If you're carrying the kind of the arc of the
evil Yoda.
I don't know. He's the new emperor because think about it.
True.
If they're following the Luke arc with Kylo, where he's the anti-Luke Skywalker, as a little phrase we coined on a very popular segment of this show. If he is the anti-Luke, then this is Kylo going to his Dagobah, if you will, to train. You know, I think what if Benicio is a mocap character?
I like that they sort of kept that stuff to a minimum in The Force
Yeah.
Awakens. I think the characters that really clicked were the ones that you couldn't tell that they were CGI.
Snoke didn't need to be.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, he didn't
Snoke.
need to be
I mean,
mocap.
we'll see what happens when he's more developed. Maz was fine. Like, she was a cool character, but I think the ones we connected most with were the human ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, I don't know too much about Kelly. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about her in the coming months. But Benicio and Laura, just like
what if she
great
just plays
actors.
an intern at, like, you know, the Resistance base?
Turns out this world is a lot different than we thought. But yeah, I think that they're
She's
both
doing
such
data entry and stuff. You know?
I think they're both such great actors, and you know, spoilers, because I always feel the need to qualify this with a spoiler warning. But when Han Solo dies, you lose one of the older actors in this cast, and so I think it's really awesome that they're supplementing that with some really, really talented other.
Yeah, and his name was just a subtle. This rumor, his name is not mentioned in the press release. They've never quite done flashbacks. I mean, they did the thing in Force Awakens, which is almost more like a nightmare kind of scenario.
Yeah.
The Vision, yeah. So I mean, maybe they would have him do that, but
Whatever,
I
they're
doubt
breaking
it.
all the rules in this one.
He's
starting
never.
before it
I
lets
can't
up.
see him being tied in though to anything that would actually use the Force to have him show up. I feel like that's reserved for like people kind of more Force sensitive, and Han was never Force sensitive, as far as I remember.
Maybe if we're going with the whole like nightmare torment thing, maybe whoever is training Kylo will like torment him with
that
visions
could be
of his
interesting.
father
Yeah,
when he was a
test
kid
him,
and stuff. There's that amazing little comic that's Chewie and Kylo growing up, and like I just keep flashing back to that. Like I'm like, you must have been so cute at one point. But
And
lots
then
of cool,
you grew up to be that.
yeah, lots of cool Star Wars stuff to look forward to between this, and I'm sure we'll be getting a lot more Rogue One stuff.
Did you see the little cartoon meme of for Valentine's Day of little Kylo writing a Valentine to Rey, Rey, I hate you, die, or whatever.
No, but we will have to look that up because that is very Jim Vejvoda sense of humor.
I love that. I love the dark sense of humor. But I think it's really exciting now that, you know, Episode 8 officially underway. Luke Skywalker back. Hopefully more than just, you know, he actually speaks this time. Yeah, what if he left and he, you know, he had such a traumatic thing that he can't speak anymore and like he's mute for the entire movie.
Easiest Mark Hamill film role he's ever done.
I don't know. That's a lot of expressions and acting and stuff, you know, with the face. The acting with the face and thing on the island. So, all right, so Episode 8 now filming. Actually really curious, what are some of your guys' biggest questions that you want answered in Episode 8? Let us know in the comments. Let's move on to the little movie that could, the thing that is now #1 at the box office.
Smashing records.
Smashing records. Deadpool. Deadpool is just kicking ass and taking names. And I'm happy to admit to being wrong. For the longest time, a lot of us were like, it's probably only going to appeal to fanboys. And boy.
Turns out everyone's a fanboy.
It turns out everyone loves Deadpool. It made, over the 4-day weekend, because it was a federal holiday here in the States, President's Day, made $152.2 million, $135 million just over the regular weekend. That's more than the Wolverine made in its entire run.
More than any of the X-Men movies, right?
Biggest opening of any of the X-Men movies. I mean, my God, it's like insta-franchise. So are you shocked by this?
You know, I will say I liked Deadpool.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. It was like one too many butt and penis jokes for me. But I also,
You clearly haven't listened to enough Keeping It Real from back in the day. That's what
listen, you know, I need it only from people who I know. But I also like completely respect it for being exactly the movie that it wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's really rare when we see a passion project like that that's on that scale. Like we see some superhero passion projects, but you know, across the board, usually they're like money-making machines. And I think the fact that Ryan Reynolds was at a 10 in every scene of that movie. Like he lived and breathed that movie. I think
like
that's
Jim
what made it work.
Carrey back in the day, like that amped.
Yeah, and so like I completely respect it for that, and I'm really happy at its success. And I think what's interesting, we're going to talk about the R rating and how it was such a high-grossing R-rated film, but James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy and is directing Guardians of the Galaxy 2, wrote a really interesting Facebook post, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, where he was talking about how he's concerned that Hollywood will take the wrong lesson from this movie, and that the lesson will be, like more violence, more breaking the fourth wall, more raunchy humor at an R-rated rating and not that it was a passion project.
Yeah,
and he was saying,
it was original.
Yeah, and he was saying that a lot of people were ripping off Guardians of the Galaxy in all the wrong ways as well, where people were missing what worked so well about that story.
Do you think he's, not to get off the Deadpool tip here too much, but do you think he's throwing elbows at Suicide Squad there?
A brief moment. He makes some comment about how, they're just throwing like
a pop song.
Yeah, like big rock songs over, snarky trailers, which I felt a little bit was that, but at the marketing side of it, not at the movie. But I thought it was a really interesting point. And what was funny is this went up and people were talking about, everyone's going to be making R-rated superhero movies. And suddenly we find out the Wolverine or Wolverine 3 or whatever it's called at this point.
Might be R-rated.
Might be R-rated,
I think.
From Fox.
They could get away with that, but considering the Wolverine was actually the lowest grossing of all the X-Men movies, and that Deadpool made more its entire opening weekend than that movie did in its entire run, I don't know if they'll actually, bite the bullet in that one and do the R rating. I mean, they could do maybe a limited release of an unrated cut just theatrically for fans, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd actually see Fox going that far. My
problem is that I feel like the Wolverine movies haven't known the right tone to stick with. They haven't been able to sell that. In Deadpool, with all its raunchy humor and everything that comes along with it, like it knew its tone and it leaned into that and it sold it and it was fun, whether you loved it or liked it or, anything else. Like it at least totally leaned into that. And I think, if they can find the right tone for Wolverine, then great, but don't just slap an R rating on it because it worked for Deadpool.
Yeah, just, if it's just ultra violent for the sake thereof, I mean, I also feel like there's a downside to that too. It's, Wolverine is the public face of this franchise for, the time being. This is going to be his last hurrah. And I understand the fans want like the ultraviolet of him just, ultraviolet of him just carving up people. But they had the theatrical cut Blu-ray of the Wolverine. So I don't know. I just don't know if that's how Fox is going to close out that character's cinematic run.
But at least we do know we're getting Deadpool 2, and we're getting Cable in Deadpool 2.
Yes.
Which I didn't even see that in my screening.
Yeah, well, apparently there were the early press screenings had a different tag at the end, or it was missing that other part. I'd seen it at like a very early cut, like the cut that I saw still had so much special effects work left to be done, and it was only weeks out. So they either showed us a dub of the movie that was an older dub, and they had a further along cut, but the one I saw did mention, and if we do a sequel, Cable's going to be in it. Mm-hmm. Then you see over the opening weekend, Stephen Lang, the bad guy from Avatar, and he's been in a bunch of things. Flexing his muscles in the gym, a silver fox, as we say, of older gentlemen and who look good. He's totally lobbying to be Cable.
I will say, I don't know a huge amount about Deadpool in the comics, and I was reading up a little bit about Cable when this came out, and it sounds like just based on, again, I'll do a deep dive when we get closer to Deadpool 2, but it does sound like this is a character that they could really weave into some of the other movies that they're working on.
Well, yeah, I mean, he is Cable, if you guys don't know, and my understanding, my knowledge of Cable is a little cursory. I kind of checked out a little bit in the 90s on the comics because they were getting more expensive, and frankly, I just didn't like a lot of the gimmickiness or even the looks of some of those characters. And we'll get to the 90s in a minute, but I feel like he is a character because his parents were Scott and Jean Summers, Jean Grey and Scott Summers, Cyclops and Phoenix. And that, he was the leader of the X-Force, and so now Ryan Reynolds is like, hey, one of my priorities is getting that X-Force movie to happen, another Rob Liefeld thing. I think he could become sort of like a Wolverine type character for, your gruff, tough guy who can kind of be a foil to some of these lighter characters. And, Deadpool and Cable had a comic together for a while. So it makes sense that you'd want to bring in this other sort of character, and they were trying to do that a little bit with Colossus in this movie, but actually have a face, a human kind of element that he can interact with. But But yeah, no, I think it'll be really interesting to see what is the next step for the X-Men franchise, and sort of how wacky does it get now? When Deadpool is your biggest thing, are we looking now at a tonally more lightweight X-Men franchise? Let's face it, those movies have been pretty glum. They've had humor, but the next one is X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, come on. Yes, it's set in the 80s with brighter
It's
costumes.
going to be
Still,
hilarious.
it's just like, I hope that's exactly the tag of the next trailer for it. It's hilarious. One thing I want to talk about excuse me, the success of Deadpool, and it is a massive hit.
Yes.
It was over 285 million worldwide. Okay. It got me thinking. 90s nostalgia. Okay. Deadpool created in the 90s. The next X-Men movie going into production is Gambit, Channing Tatum, another 90s character. And just last year, Jurassic World, The Return of Jurassic Park, which came out in the 90s, huge hit. Okay. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I know it's a bit of a cheat. It started in the 80s, but let's face it, it was
huge in the 90s.
That cartoon in the 90s is really what made it even more universally kind of appealing. And then we have, Power Rangers coming up. You know, there's all these sort of
and even on TV,
properties.
like they're bringing the Powerpuff Girls back. Like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff where it is sort of this 90s revival.
I do feel like the 80s nostalgia that fueled so much of pop culture now is they have to hang up those guns now. I mean, I really do feel like 90s nostalgia is driving the marketplace.
Well, it makes sense.
As someone who grew up in the 90s.
It's true. I was very much a 90s kid. And if you think about it, like the past 10 years have been dominated by 80s nostalgia, as you've said.
Yeah.
It makes sense that the big target audience that poured all their money into that is going to be now 90s kids. So it does make sense to lean into that. I'm curious to see what more comes out of it and what elements they can do. Maybe it's just a matter of like really nailing video game movies and figuring out how to do that, like what the next big comic book movie franchise, like movie adaptation that blows up is going to be.
I think that's why Gambit is such a gambit. It's like it really, like if they can nail that like they nailed Deadpool, now you have your two 90s anchors there for the next iteration of the X-Men franchise. And just in terms of like 90s nostalgia in general, I mean, Jurassic Park is back with a vengeance. That's not going anywhere. Are there any particular kind of 90s things that you would like to see them bring back?
My favorite things in the 90s were Pokemon and Sailor Moon. And no, I do not want to see a live action adaptation for
Really?
them. I'm perfectly happy with like the Nintendo video game but actually we did get a Sailor Moon reboot last year that came out, an anime came back. I mean, I think that's an interesting conversation for a later day. What would we actually like to see brought back from the 90s? But I guess the bottom line is it's a 90s nostalgia world and we're all just living in it.
I guess so. We're curious what 90s properties you want to see brought back, and what and so far of the rise of the 90s nostalgia, which one has really gotten you the most? I'm assuming it's Deadpool, but maybe it's Ninja Turtles, maybe you can't wait for Power Rangers. I just want to know. Let us know in the comments. Let's move on to other big comic book movie things.
Can we talk about Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I know, like, I've been a little bit of a skeptic about it. I finally watched the last trailer. I wish they led with that.
Yeah.
That's such a great trailer.
It is. It's
and
fun.
We were talking about it, like, they should have led with the Batman of it all, but what if their initial trailers were this one that's so Batman focused at the beginning, and then another one that's really Superman focused at the beginning, and it really was like the verses of it all? Because I feel like we haven't seen a trailer yet that fully helps us to understand what the balance of these two characters is going to be. I really like this trailer. It's the first thing that got me like genuinely fully excited for this movie.
Yeah, you have been kind of on the skittish side about the movie. You and a lot of other folks. Do you think this trailer has it actually really made you optimistic for the movie, or are you still sort of like, I don't know?
You know, it's the first thing I saw where I was like, and I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of crap for saying this, but that made me think, oh, this could be more than a big mess. Because everything that I saw before made it seem like it would be a bit of a mess. I it might have come too late to change people's minds. Like, I know I probably, in the mix of doing everything else that we were doing, I might have missed this trailer because it wasn't the first trailer, it's the last trailer. I'm like, I feel like I understand what this movie is. But, it could come out, it could defy expectations like Deadpool did and really stick the landing. I know a lot of people are really excited about it. I think, especially within IGN, I'm a bit in the minority on that. So I am excited now.
Well, I do feel like do you think that last trailer, though, the one that revealed Doomsday, is that damage irreparable? I mean, you kind of answered a little bit with that question, but I feel like, that's a lot to forget about. While you're watching this trailer, you still know, well, Doomsday shows up in the end, and we know how Wonder Woman plays into it now, or at least we have a better idea that, Batman didn't even know who Wonder Woman was. I thought it was how they knew each other, and nope.
Yeah, I mean, the other trailers did reveal, or seemingly reveal, a lot of the plot.
Yeah.
We'll see how it all plays out. Some trailers we've seen, like the first Iron Man one, was pretty much the entire plot of that movie. Other ones have been a bit of a bait and switch. Yeah. So who knows? I was excited to get Wonder Woman talking, to see a little bit more of that.
I did like the little James Bond flirtation thing that Bruce Wayne had.
I like that too. And also there was a really cute moment that I had to go back and look at where Clark Kent, because he wasn't as Superman in the moment, like jumped fully clothed into a bathtub.
Yeah.
Which oh my God, I'm
Lois
terrible.
Lane?
With Lois Lane. God, I'm terrible blanking on that. And I was like, oh, that's really cute. Like those are real human moments. And
there's kind of a rhyming imagery though of, we see her in the bathtub in one sequence, and then we see her, it looks like almost like she's drowning or she's been pulled in. So I do wonder if that isn't by accident, could Lois die in this movie?
That would be a really big thing, and I hope not, because I like Amy Adams, and I would not like to see Lois Lane die.
I mean, that would be grim. Come on, that would be. But that could also, that could be the thing where Batman sees the human side of Superman and sees, hopefully it doesn't come to the love of his life having to get killed for Batman to be like, hey, now I guess you're not too bad, But it made me wonder. I still just, there's part of me though that wonders, what if they had gone that more lightweight route with this whole thing, and Batman is just completely oblivious to like Superman just being a totally nice guy. If Superman's just more like a Channing Tatum type, was like, oh, Batman, you're so awesome. You built all that.
They have their own version
of
their own version of the shawarma scene at the end of the movie, where it's like, wait, dude, I was wrong about you this whole time. You're pretty awesome.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're so cool. You built that car. What can't
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. That would be hilarious
and Batman's
if it went
just
that
like,
route.
Justice, and he's just blind to it all. He's like, oh, I love you,
I'm just thinking
Batman.
Lego Batman from the Lego movie.
Or even like, just like
darkness.
Where he's just like, hey Batman, how you doing? I'm gonna get you.
I think that's the Lego movie too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Channing Tatum is Superman in that one, so I guess maybe that's what I was thinking. One other thing that jumped out to me about, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. One thing that jumped out to me, I know, right? And it just splashed me in the face. Damn you, Aquaman. They haven't shown Aquaman in any of this stuff. We know he's in the movie. They have the toys out from him. Why aren't we seeing Aquaman, I wonder?
We already have like a billion other characters in this trailer.
I know, but what the hell, in for a penny, in for a pound.
I know. I wonder if it's going to be one of those things where after the movie comes out and people have seen it and how everything fits together, they'll start doing some of that. I do think that it's a lot to already be introducing Batman, Alfred, Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor in this movie that for all intents and purposes is a Man of Steel sequel. It's continuing that storyline. I think tossing in Aquaman, especially if he's not going to have a huge role, like your big selling moment, your big OMG moment is Wonder Woman arriving.
Right.
You can't do that again with Aquaman.
I hope Aquaman, though, his intro is like Daniel Craig in Casino Royale, where he just gets out of the ocean and he's just doing his beefcake shot.
I bet that Jason Momoa would be into it.
I just feel like that would be funny. Let's see, what is what another thing that struck me about this, though, was, and it speaks kind of to your point of, hey, it would have been nice to have had a trailer more from Superman's point of view. How much he took a back seat in this trailer.
Yeah, but this also was the first time it felt to me like, oh my God, we're getting a new Batman movie. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, right.
So I think they needed that. I think the balance they struck before wasn't really working. I think they might have been better served by really leaning more into the Batman side or more into the Superman side and not trying to sell them as, like, we know in the title they're going to fight. Obviously, they're going to be friends. It's Dawn of Justice.
They're going to be super friends.
They're going to be super friends. They're going to form a league together. So I think, yeah, there might have been a mistake in the marketing, but whatever. It's going to make a ton of money.
Okay. Well, here's an interesting question, because a lot of chins have been wagging this week. Drew McWeeny at HitFix saying that he's heard from people who've seen the movie that Warner Brothers is scared, that they're nervous, that it's not for everybody. I think Latino Review also heard from people, and I think Batman News and Batman on Film, like a lot of people are hearing from insiders who have seen the movie that it could be another Man of Steel where it's very polarizing. Like, I liked Man of Steel. A lot of people hated it. And its box office, well, good, was not stellar in terms of, like, there's a reason why you put Batman in your second movie that could have been a Man of Steel too.
Right. And my thought about Man of Steel is, and you might disagree, other people might disagree, that's fine, we're all friends here. Man of Steel felt like it was trying to take the Superman out of a Superman movie. Like, it was very serious, it was very dark.
Doing that, though.
Agreed, but you also have Batman in a very Batman-friendly setting. You're putting all these other comic booky elements into it with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Flash and everything.
Cyborg.
Yeah, and so I think that, yes, it might not appeal to everyone, but it might really appeal to the core demographic, which Man of Steel might not necessarily have done.
Yeah.
And I think we saw with Deadpool, like, yes, it looks like a very different type of movie. We didn't think that was a movie for everyone. Sometimes, like, the rule number one of storytelling is the more personal, the more focused your story is, the more universally appealing it is. The more you try to be universally appealing, the less it's going to appeal to anyone. So it could be another case of that. But I do think having Batman and Superman and Justice in a title means that you're getting hitting a lot of different points.
It has to. I mean, this was a super expensive movie, no pun intended. It was over $400 million. It has to make $1 billion. There are, like, jobs and careers riding on this thing, and
the rest of Warner Brothers DC movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there is. A lot of people have been speculating, and I agree with it. Like, could this be another Amazing Spider-Man 2 scenario where, you're talking up this huge slate, and because the movie, Amazing Spider-Man 2 made something like $700 million. It made more than Man of Steel. And they scrapped Spider-Man movies after that because there wasn't a groundswell for more. Marvel got the character back, all that. If Beavis Dodge, we did it again.
No, we've been told to stop.
We've been told to stop doing that. All right,
Batman v
Superman.
Last one.
That's
the last one. I'm sorry, everyone who yelled at us. Nope. I don't want to get yelled at anymore.
Not doing it. All right. So
too much abuse.
So Batman v Superman. If it doesn't make $1 billion, and there are reasons why. One, the sheer cost and the fact that you need to make 2.5 times what your movie cost to make to turn a profit. That's Hollywood math. It's like the old rule of thumb. But also bragging rights. Marvel has $3 billion grossers. Avengers 1, 2, and Iron Man 3. DC doesn't have, in terms of the current iteration of this universe, they don't have
still
that.
It's one.
Yeah, but they need to get in that game.
But you don't think...
I don't know if this movie, I think a lot of it's going to have to really play overseas.
To me, the difference between Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Batman v Superman is that, yes, it had a lot in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but it was all within the Spider-Man franchise. This, you're bringing together two major franchises, plus a bunch of other franchises to varying degrees with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and everything else. You don't think that alone is going to sell it like the Avengers did?
I think Batman is going to be, I think at the end of the day, and from what all these other outlets from their insiders, that Affleck's Batman basically steals the show, that he's the reason to see this movie. And I think that marketing reveals
Batman v Superman, not Superman v Batman.
Yeah, he did get top billing there, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think Batman is going to end up being sort of their Wolverine or their Iron Man, who is sort of the linchpin going forward, regardless of how this movie turns out. You don't get Ben Affleck as Batman, and you're not going to recast it and reboot again.
Right.
I think they're going to stick with it and just try and use Batman and something else. Drew at HitFix was suggesting that, I don't know if Justice League will happen now if this movie comes out and disappoints. And no, I think that machinery is too firmly in place at this.
And we don't have that much longer to wait at this point. Like it's right around the corner now.
Wonder Woman is filming, and it's gonna. There's too much groundwork being laid. They called it Dawn of Justice. Well, you can't call it that and then not have Justice show up.
We'll see how it hits. I think that if there's something that doesn't work, you fix what's broken. But yeah,
I'm not holding my breath for more Superman though going forward. I just
maybe he'll be the Hulk and just pop up at the end of.
Or they replace him like with Shazam, since he's the bright shiny one. It kind of reminds me of in the 70s they did those superhero roasts and they couldn't use Superman, so they had Shazam. And I feel like that's what'll end up happening. Shazam will be basically your Superman surrogate because he'll be the bright shiny, aw shucks, all-American kind of guy. And that could be fun, but it's just kind of funny that Superman will he ever smile again? I don't know. I want to know. What's your biggest sort of concern about, or let me put it this way: if Batman v Superman does stumble, they're already prepping Justice League. Which one of those DC movies that are in the works is going to get the axe? I think it's Cyborg, and I think it's Flash.
Yeah, I think it could be those. I was just going to say
all of them too. I don't know.
I think Marvel worked well in establishing various brands for their characters and then bringing them together.
Yeah.
I think Batman v Superman is a great way to see which of these various characters really connect with people,
right,
and which don't. And I think based on that, that could be the thing that acts as it. And especially some of those movies are a ways down the road.
You could just end up with and I had pitched this kind of in a conversation with Goldman the other day of, what if they do sort of do the thing of like the Batman Brave and the Bold, and the idea of, it goes back to the comics and of course that cartoon, but Batman, it was like Marvel Team Up, where one superhero was kind of your staple of the book, but they would team up every month with another character. So it wasn't a team book, but it was like two guys joining forces, right? So what if, it's a Batman Wonder Woman movie, or if it's just a Batman and they bring in
I just think you don't
some other
overkill
characters.
Batman. We know Batman sells. We know Nolan's Batman performed really well. That's why people were nervous at first. I think that they were bringing back Batman. Batman absolutely sells. You can't hang your entire franchise on this one character.
You
need other characters. But again,
I
going
think
back
until
to
you
Marvel,
get your next
Marvel didn't
breakout
have any of it. It didn't have its Batman, and it really sold those other characters. I think for the DC movies to flourish, they need to sell us on why we should care about Aquaman and Cyborg and this version of the Flash.
I think what it'll take is an incredibly charismatic performer too, because Robert Downey, let's turn back the clock here. He was a bad headline and a cautionary tale when you got the Iron Man role, and the MCU made him the star he is today. But it was his charisma as Iron Man that has dominated Marvel movies until this point. There's a reason why they bring him into everything, because those 3 movies that all cracked $1 billion all starred him.
Yeah.
He has become, and you need that sort of, until Affleck's not going to be able to do it on his own. Like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is going to have to be like really capture people, and they're going to need, since Superman has been kind of a wet blanket, you're going to need that other charismatic kind of performer.
And I really do think that's the marketing, and that's why we're talking about
and casting too.
But that first Iron Man trailer, even though I poked fun at it spoiling the entire movie, ultimately. You're sold on him as Tony Stark from the beginning,
from that
right?
Thing where he does
and
the
fact that there is such skepticism around Batman v Superman. Sure, we've seen a bunch of really great trailers for really bad movies, but you need to sell people from the start on these.
Maybe that's where Will Smith's Deadshot comes in. You got Will Smith And unless they kill him off in
Suicide Squad 2 was
yeah.
another case where the first trailer came out and we're like, why is this so serious? This should be more fun.
I loved it.
And it was the second trailer, I think, that really won a lot of people over.
Yeah, it did seem to have the more universal appeal on that one, but I liked that first trailer. I liked the creepy, that kind of off-kilter tone of it. But yeah, the second one was like, this is going to be fun. Like, it's not just going to be time with psychopaths, you know? Like, you know, it's not going to be a brooding character study of life in prison, you know?
Listen, we have Orange is the New Black already.
Exactly. Let's move on from Batman v Superman and talk a little Marvel. We have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We did kind of mention it earlier. It has now officially begun filming in Atlanta, Georgia.
Just cut to the chase. There's an image. It has Baby Groot in it.
It has Baby Groot, people. He's back. And it hit me when I saw that. I'm like, yeah, trees take a while to grow. So, of course, you know, and I tweeted James Gunn, and I don't know if by the time we had started filming this, I haven't checked to see if he tweeted back, but asking, is he going to be Baby Groot the whole movie? Because that's pretty ballsy, actually. But what if he's Baby Groot the whole movie?
I need more Baby Groot merchandise.
But exactly. I mean, that stuff moved merch, and it was very popular, and it brings in the kids and all that. But he's Baby Groot, but he has Vin Diesel's voice throughout. I mean, that would be awesome.
Biggest acting challenge of Vin Diesel's life is turning that deep, gravelly thing into an adorable Baby Groot. Or maybe easiest thing, because they don't have him talk like he did when he was dancing at the end.
So what do you think then of, can they actually pull off Baby Groot for the whole movie?
I don't think that they will. But I think Baby Groot is a lot more fun than like prepubescent and like teenage Baby Groot.
I want to see sullen 14-year-old Groot who's just sitting in the room. He won't come out, or just blaring thrash metal or something.
I would buy that comic. I mean,
and maybe, Rocket is all frustrated and thinking, you snap out of it.
Maybe they're able to sell it for the whole movie. I don't know.
I think that'd be pretty awesome.
I think whatever they do, I'm on board with at this point.
Well, they have Kurt Russell, who officially on board, which is awesome. They also, you know, they did say that it's about the search for, you know, Peter Quill's real dad. I mean, come on, you don't get Kurt Russell and not have him play the dad. Also, I mean, Kurt Russell and Chris Pratt, they have a similar kind of beady eyes, and they have that similar kind of.
Easy though?
I think it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I think, you know what, because they have that they both have that swagger, and there's a little bit of, you know, Jack Burton in Peter Quill, too. Okay. I mean, we always talk about Han Solo, but, you know, if they had made Guardians back in the 80s, like, you know, they did, it was called Ice Pirates, but if they had done it, you know, like, it would have been Kurt Russell, you know, would have played Peter Quill. So I think that's awesome. They also announced that Elizabeth Debicki, who was the villain in Man from U.N.C.L.E. and was in Great Gatsby, she is also in the movie. They didn't say who she was, though. I didn't write down her last name. Damn it. Palm Demirov is James Gunn confirmed that she is indeed Mantis, which we all kind of suspected. And then there's an actor named Chris Sullivan who is on The Nick. He is also in the movie. Didn't say who he's playing. But, you know, we also have Nebula back. We have Yondu. So yeah, I think I'd mentioned or like pitched this idea in a previous podcast. What if, or maybe it was just us talking, but what if Kurt Russell, because I could see him and Michael Rooker being brothers, like what if
I could see them
what if
flying
Kurt
together.
Russell isn't like the blue makeup also with the red thing, and he's like Yondu's brother?
That would be fun.
And that's why Yondu was sent to go pick up little Peter Quill as a kid.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, I think the thing about who Peter Quill's dad is it can't just be a big reveal from a comics character. It needs to be a reveal that means something to an audience that hasn't read the comics. And
it's not going to be what's his name, Jason, J apostrophe son, who is I think the dad in the comics. Everyone is confirmed that's not the case.
But you've mentioned, you know, the many Guardians who are in this movie, and I love James Gunn because he is so active on social media, and he will talk back to fans, and some fans were like, put all in that the thing that he wrote about Deadpool, a fan was like, put all the Guardians in, and he was like, no, you're missing the point. It's not about cramming a bunch of Guardians in, it's about developing the ones you have. And that gave me some hope that this wasn't just cramming a bunch of Guardians in, and that he would strike a really good balance with it.
Well, I mean, each of, we've heard before that Yondu and Nebula are going to be basically part of the Guardians crew now. They were in the comics too. And Yondu was actually one of I believe, one of the original Guardians. And I always loved him because he had that giant red fin / mohawk thing. But, it makes sense that each of those characters already has an established emotional kind of rift with two of the main characters. I mean, Nebula and Gamora, and then Peter Quill and Yondu. So, I mean, it makes sense to bring them back and kind of work on that, on the dynamics that were already established there. And I am curious how Peter Quill's dad, Peter Quill's dad, probably played by Kurt Russell, is going to factor in with that. He has to be important enough that somehow he's got to be connected somehow to Yondu. And he, it would make sense if he was some sort of, ne'er-do-well too, like a charmer. But, the way Peter Quill's mom described him in the first movie was like he was like an angel. So, this is why we're all been scratching our heads about that. Like, we all thought he was Adam Warlock maybe, but probably not,
Yeah.
And then what was the other Guardians thing? Darn.
I think we got through it all.
I think we got through it all.
I think that's the stuff. I jumped straight to Baby Groot.
Baby Groot is where it's at. Actually, I want to know from you guys, how much Baby Groot do you want in this movie? Do you want Baby Groot for the whole movie?
Groot.
Do you want to see our idea of sullen adolescent Groot? I am Groot, slamming the door, putting on his Walkman, listening to, let us know. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Let's move on to something that, is near and dear to your heart, the Transformers franchise. All right,
well,
I'm totally lying there, aren't I?
Don't worry about it because it's never going away.
No.
Much like DC
Cinematic
and Star
cookies.
Wars and Marvel, Transformers is never going away.
And we found out this, or actually last week, or was it this week? I don't know, it was last week.
At some point over the
Some
holiday.
point in recent memory. Transformers 5, 6, and 7 are happening. We knew that, but we have official dates now. It's
For
like
2019.
It's like planning for the rapture when you know it's coming.
It's coming.
So Transformers, each of them opening up in June. Transformers 5 in 2017. Transformers 6, and we'll get to that in a minute, in June 2018. And Transformers 7 in June 2019. Transformers 5 is opening against Wonder Woman. And Transformers 6 turns out it's going to be a Bumblebee spin-off movie, a lower budget one they mentioned. So I got a couple of, and that's going to open against Godzilla 2. So that's a smackdown right there between those two. They're calling
I would
out
watch
Warner
that
Brothers.
crossover.
Well, they're calling out Warner Brothers. They must sense a little blood in the water that your slate. Do you think Wonder Woman and Godzilla are going to blink and move off those days?
I think that it would be really smart for Warner Brothers to move Wonder Woman because your audience that you are trying to win over, your big fanboy audience and fangirl, but they'll probably skew more towards Transformers 5. You want them to show up for Wonder Woman. And unless you really nail this, even if you do really nail this, people go see Transformers movies. That's why they're going to make them forever because they make so much money, especially internationally.
Those are billion-dollar movies.
Yeah.
Right there.
So I definitely think you move that. Godzilla, we'll see what comes of, again, it's a Bumblebee spinoff. They're saying lower budget from the beginning. We'll see what that means.
Yeah.
We'll also see what comes of the new Godzilla movie. I think it'll be really interesting to see which one of those moves and which one ends up being a stronger movie.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Godzilla, the Gareth Edwards one, I liked it. I didn't love it. I loved the trailers a lot more than I ended up loving the movie. And a lot of people, I think, felt that way. Like it had some cool Godzilla action, maybe not enough, but it did meet with a lukewarm kind of response from fans. It made money. Obviously, it was enough to get him Rogue One, but I don't know if the appetite necessarily is there for it. And they are trying to build up the Godzilla Kong kind of shared universe, but I don't think the Bumblebee movie itself is necessarily a slam dunk because it depends on, first of all, Bumblebee doesn't really talk. You know, he only channels these different voices from radio and TV and stuff. So how do you make that work, and what is sort of, you know, who's the human character in that? It's going to need something else there to kind of click with it. But I think it's, you know, of all the characters to spin off outside of, you know, Optimus, I mean, Bumblebee makes sense.
Yeah,
he's
I just
cute,
wonder
he's
if
kid
it's
friendly, you know.
I wonder if it's too late, or maybe, you know, because he did have such a key role in the earlier Transformers movies, now is the right time. But maybe it's just that my own dedication to the Transformers movie franchise has waned.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was much more invested in Bumblebee as a character in the first few than I am at this point now.
Yeah, I can remember, you know, he's obviously key to the first movie. It's a boy and his dog story, except the dog is a car that talks and transforms.
Just bring back Shia.
Well, you know, what if they do? What if the Bumblebee thing is like, you know, now Sam Witwicky is like just like he's like middle-aged and he's working.
I'm just
like,
imagining Bumblebee walking around wearing the paper bag that says "I'm not famous."
Actually, I would love that. It gets really meta. It turns into like Deadpool, breaks the fourth wall.
Hey, if everyone's doing it by the time they start making that movie.
What do you think? Should they bring back Shia for the Bumblebee movie? I'm all in on that one. Good luck trying to get him back, but if they pitched it in a certain way, maybe he would do it. Or maybe they'd bring back Megan Fox. Or what if the Bumblebee spinoff teams him up with the Ninja Turtles?
Do you think they're going to do Ninja Turtles? I mean,
think
why
so.
not?
There've been some rumblings, but hey, well, yeah, why not? That thing would clean up.
Yeah,
you know?
it would.
Yeah, 90s nostalgia. And then, so Transformers 7 all the way through 2019. Yeesh. That's
your overwhelming optimism is just suffocating me.
I don't know, man. I mean, I know these movies make money, but at a certain point,
I mean, it is a land grab with release dates at this point.
It is. It really is. It's like we're staking out our claim. It's like, you know, back when the Europeans were trying to conquer the New World. You know, every country sent out their ships and tried to, you know, Spain took Florida, England took New England, and France was trying to get Louisiana. And like that's what it's turning into, except with movies and robots. That's about it on the news side. However, we do have a reader email, and it's fairly simple, but it comes from
I swear if it's someone
Kevin.
else yelling about my sore throat.
Nobody yelling. Nobody yelling.
Good. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry.
I've been raspy sick. Voices are cool, man.
I've been sick.
Let's say Kevin writes in, for the next year, I have to admit that my most anticipated movie is Batman v Superman. I'm also the most worried about it. Most movies now I can go in while keeping expectations low, but not this. Other than comic book movies, what is your most anticipated movie of 2016? It's a good one, right?
I would say Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, okay.
And also one that I'm the most nervous about because I really, really, really love Harry Potter. And I feel the same way. I've been trying to keep my expectations low. I honestly haven't been thinking too much about it. I really want it to be great. I want to feel that same like joy I felt going in and seeing a Harry Potter movie or getting a new book and feeling, you know, so excited to be in J.K. Rowling's world. And I'm worried that since, I mean, yes, she wrote it, but it's a spinoff essentially based on nothing, and maybe I don't feel that way. Maybe I'll just be a jaded adult now.
Based on her heart and imagination.
I know.
Yeah, so what if this ends up to be, for Harry Potter fans, their Star Wars prequels?
Stop! I just told you
Welcome
I was
to our world of pain,
millennials. So that's mine. How about you?
I'd have to say probably Suicide Squad. I just think I never thought we'd ever get a Suicide Squad movie. I love everything I've seen so far. Yes, Joker's a huge question mark with the tattoos and all that, but so far, like between Harley Quinn and just sort of the tone of it, I'm cautiously optimistic. It is a huge gamble. You know, Rogue One, I don't know. Like, it's not Episode 8. And Rogue One, I hope it works. I hope it's good. But I don't know who to latch onto yet emotionally in that movie, whereas maybe it'll be different once we see the trailers. But
listen, Felicity Jones had me since like crazy, so
I'm
on board.
I mean, I do hope that, and I would expect, and I'm just spitballing here, but I bet you they dropped the Rogue One trailer in time for May the 4th be with you. So even though the movie comes out in Christmas. Well, yeah, it would be right around the corner.
Well, that was a great reader question. We love your reader questions.
Yes,
Send us more reader questions. What's the email?
At keepinitreal@ign.com. Follow us on Twitter at Terri_Schwartz, at Jim Vejvoda. That'll do it for this week's show. For all things movies, keep it here on IGN.